Guys, I'm going to talk about the planets today. The planets kind of get things moving. Because, you were born at a certain time, and that really captures all where the planets are, capture who you are. But they can't stay the same, because, if they didn't move at their own unique pace, because of their size and how far away they're from the sun, they have their own unique pace, which means they're not, they could align at some point, but then they don't. And it just keeps kind of going in its random order. But if they stay the same, everyone has the same personality, and that'd be boring. And if they stayed the same, we would not experience anything, and they wouldn't have an effect on us. So say you were born as an Aries. Say, for example, that you are born, and you have every planet in one sign. Like Aries, because I always use that as an example, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, whatever. If you're born with everything in Aries, you'd be the epitome of Aries. Everyone would be like, damn, you're an Aries, and you'd be like reading a book, and you wouldn't read it for long, because you just read it for 2 seconds, you're like, wow, this is me. And then you throw it in, and you go do something else, because Aries is always doing something else. But you'd realize every single thing probably fit you. And the thing is, most people just know that their sun is an Aries. But you might have, random planets and other things in other houses. But right now I'm going to talk about planets. The planets are the energy of who you are, and the houses are how you express that, and where and which part of life do you express that. So say, and you could, say this is you, in the middle of a circle. And then there's another circle around it, and those are the planets. And another circle around it, and those are the houses. They're constantly turning and twerking and moving in their own way. So you're randomly born, and say Mars is in Gemini in the 5th house. This is a pretty good placement. And you have to mix all those together, and you're like, okay, Mars. Everyone has Mars in their chart. Mars would be where you initiate things, what you jump onto, what your energy and passions go towards, and what you're just automatically do, basically, and you're good at, I guess. You're good at jumping into, you're good at initiating, and you want to put all your energy into. Mars is very, focused. And Mars is strong in certain signs, and it's comfortable in certain signs, like Aries, Scorpio, and Capricorn. If it's in Aries, you're more liable to use that energy in a raw, day-to-day thing, because, it's the purest form of Mars. And then if you have it in Scorpio, it's also a good thing, but you're most likely to do it in sex. You might have more sex appeal, because Scorpio is a sexual sign, and it rules the sex part of life. And if you have it in Capricorn, that's an exalted position. Every planet has exalted positions. Every sign has an exalted connection with a planet, specific planets. And the reason why Mars is exalted in Capricorn, because Capricorn are naturally focused. They focus their energy on one part of life. And then you take Mars in Capricorn. You probably would be a very ambitious person. But this is just energies. Now, Capricorns are ambitious, but it doesn't mean that you will be ambitious towards a certain part of life. Capricorns are slightly lean towards more career, but then you look at the houses, and then you really know what aspect of life this planet is affecting. So let's see. Say you're born with Aries, Mars. The planet Mars was in the constellation of Aries when you were born, and it's in the 1st house. Now this would naturally mean that it's very typical, it's very flowing energy. You would automatically, the 1st house is how you appear to other people. Mars is happy in the 1st house, and it's initiative. And you would have an exuberant, not over the top, straightforward personality. And you would feel comfortable, there would be no contradiction there. But then most people don't have that. Those 3 things lined up would be crazy, and just kind of straightforward energy, simple. But then most people have quirkiness to their personality. And astrology is ruled over by Aquarius. Aquarius is a quirky sign because it's all about mixtures and differences and individuality. And then everyone's individual, so unique, because there's so many things in astrology that you can study, and it all revolves around, basically, the signs, the planets, and the houses. So, oh shit. So, if you were born with your sun in Leo, that would be another good placement, because the sun naturally rules Leo. It's comfortable in that house. Because Leo is the center, the sun is the center of our galaxy, Leo is fire, the sun is fire. If you had the sun in Leo in the 5th house, which would be natural, because Leo is the 5th sign, and that would mean that the 5th house is about children. And children, because children are the vivre life force. The most dramatic kind of life force. The Leos are dramatic. That's how they express their fire energy. Leo expresses its fire energy dramatically because it's fixed. And it's like, look at me, kind of in a way. Like, it's all about attention. It's a good sign. It's benefic. Now, there's benefic and malefic, which means good and bad, if you really want to simplify them. But in a day-to-day scheme, you need a good balance of good and bad to be good. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be too good, you can't be too bad. And this placement might be too good. Like, Jupiter in the 5th house might be really kind of too good. So, like, if you have that placement, you might kind of get addicted to good things. Because the 5th house, I don't know if I said this, but it's children, it's also video games, it's leisurely time, it's romanticism, it's liaisons, it's love affairs, it could be love, like, it's a love house. And if you have Jupiter, which is also just like another benefic, Jupiter rules over expansion. Each planet has like that kind of energy to it. Like, someone with too much Jupiter in their chart, which means that like that planet like kind of has a strong influence. It could be due to any amount of things. Like, you could have a strong Sagittarius, and Sagittarius rules Jupiter, so that means Jupiter would be strong in your chart, which means you would be a Jupiter person, which means you might be over the top, which means you might have a very lucky life, but after a while you wouldn't appreciate it. You'd just be like, oh, this is how I'm used to. And like, you might not see your limits, and you might die young because you don't understand death. You kind of just be like, yeah, I'm happy-go-lucky people. Everyone loves them, but you need some Saturn in your life. This somewhere right here. Saturn is the kind of like other side of the same coin as Jupiter. But if you're a strong Saturn person, I'm a strong Saturn person. I see limits everywhere. I understand. I compartmentalize things. Saturn people tend to see the bigger picture and the smaller picture, but there's a tendency toward depression unless they do things that Saturn wants them to do. So Saturn is strong, tends to rule the 10th house and the 11th house, and Jupiter might be good it would be good in the 5th house and the 4th. Like, I have those. It's funny because I have Saturn in the 11th, which is where it rules, but I also have Jupiter and the Moon in the 4th and the 5th, which is what they rule. There's a lot of extremism in my chart. So, and Saturn rules my chart, so Saturn's telling me, you gotta find balance. And I believe in past lives, and if you want to get into that, I think past lives are very important. I think past lives are very, you can see past lives in charts. Like, you can look at random angles in your chart and say, okay, well, if you're this sign, then in karma, your past life was this. And a lot of people understand, they're just like, yeah, that makes sense, because, in this life, when I was born, I could do that. It was a natural talent of mine. Usually natural talents, they don't just come out of thin air. And yes, they do come from nature, like your parents' lineages and genealogy, but it comes from nurture, and it comes from so many different things. And the reason why you were chosen to live and have your parents is because, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions that study this stuff, and very, very philosophical people tend to believe it's because of your past life. And you have a karma connection to your parents and your past life, and your family and friends, and when they reach the point of your life. And Saturn does have a strong part in time. But not only Saturn, but the movement of the planets. Saturn has rings, which symbolizes time. Like a clock is circular. Everything goes in circles. And Saturn knows this intuitively. Sagittarius doesn't go really in circles. It just kind of goes straight. It's like, yeah, fun time. Yeah, fun. But then in reality, like, it wants to see the big picture. Jupiter wants to see the big picture. But Saturn actually does. Saturn knows the harsh reality of life. It's a circle. It's a harsh reality, but you know what? If you follow that circle, you're never going to die. Hard times, good times. Hard times, good times. And then you finally find a balance, and the most balanced thing is a circle. Anyway, I'm going too much into the philosophy of this, but it all makes sense. Saturn rules the signs that are ahead of the Jupiter signs. Well, I mean, it's ahead of Sagittarius, which is like the initial Jupiter sign. And then after Sagittarius is Capricorn. Capricorn is Saturn. It's kind of father time. It's learned. It has to say. It rules the part of your life when you reach 30, and you're like, okay, have I done what I needed to do? Saturn tells you. Saturn basically is a cold, stern, objective thing that tells you when you're 30, or throughout your life, to some people, most people, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. You're going to suffer. That's what life does, doesn't it? It can knock you down. And Uranus, which is another planet that is connected with Saturn, has a strong karmic connection. It kind of knocks you down unexpectedly, just because it's kind of like, let me look at that person. Let me ruin their life. If you have a strong Saturn, you will be able to handle Uranus. Uranus is eccentric. I have a strong Uranus too in my chart. I have a lot of the other outer planets, the spiritual planets, the more complex planets in my chart. So, my life focuses on, complex subjects such as philosophy, psychology, astrology, astronomy, whatever, a few other things. But yeah, so this is how the signs relate to one another. This is how the planets relate to them. Everyone has every planet and every sign and every house in their chart. You might have a stronger planet, a stronger house, and a stronger sign. My strongest sign is Capricorn because I have a lot of planets in Capricorn. And my strongest house is 11th house because I have a lot of planets in the 11th house. I also have a 5th house kind of focus and 4th house a bit. Aries, Pisces, and Virgo are weak in my chart, which makes sense. I like Pisces and Virgo. You tend, like, whatever your weakest sign, you tend to also have a weak opposite sign, and then you tend to have, like, some people do a good balance. If you have a good balance between opposite signs, then you tend to be a more balanced person or objective. Now, subjective people might not have that balance at all. They might have all planets at the bottom of the circle, or like at the top, or one side, and each part of the circle actually rules a kind of part of life. The one side of the circle is very subjective and center focused. The other side is about other people. The top is about career. The bottom part is about your inner life, your inner self. I have way more focus on my career, the top, and one side, which is me. So it's kind of very focused on my hopes and wishes, on my career, and the recognition that I'll get, and my social status or standing, which is a very Capricorn thing. And it's really interesting because the sun, wherever your sun is around the circle, kind of tells you, kind of overpowers your chart. And it kind of like creates this thing where it makes sense. Your sun is very important because it's your center. It holds all the gravity together for all the other planets. Anyway, this will conclude this episode. Oh, whatever you want to call it.